Hey there, MiniWarGamers. Owen here from MiniWarGaming. That's a very powerful magnet. Here to start the first part of my painting challenge to paint all of my Menoth, which if you saw in the first video is about 150 points, and so I'm aiming to paint it all. So today the goal is to get Ekrios, who's in a bit of rough shape, and actually I'm tearing these off. Alright, apparently I'm not tearing these off. Give up. If you haven't noticed already, I do have a bit of a theme going on with my army, where my casters have wings. Well, I found Krios a pair of wings. I gotta get these off of here. Oh, don't break model, don't break model. Breaks. Come on, come off already. Doesn't break off. There you go. Of course, a lot of the primer now came off, but not a big deal. Can fix that. Fix that in post. Anyway, so where do we start? Where do we start? Let's get... you won't have wings. It just isn't the same if you don't have the wings. Who really wants to get painted first? Let's finish off these bastions, because in almost every game I play, I bring 10 bastions, so might as well get the other 5 at least on their way towards being painted. So as you can see here, they've got a dry brush of silver, gold shoulder pads, and they're going to have red capes, just like their buddy Vilman here. And yeah. So let's see, what do we need? What do we need? We need a dry brush, which could be this brush. This brush will work. We need a little piece of paper. We need paint, Evil Suns. So basically the 3 colors I'm using here. Not that this is a painting tutorial. I mean, don't listen to me on how to do painting, but I do talk to Chris a lot, and he gives me advice, and I do watch his videos. But these are essentially the 3 colors used. Going with Fiston Red as the base, and then going to Evil Sun Scarlet, and then a few little corners done with the Wild Rider Red, which is basically orange. It says it's red, but it's effectively orange, in my opinion. In my opinion. Everything that I say in these videos is an in my opinion key point. So if you disagree, that's fine. It's just my opinion. And yeah, I'm just going to dry brush here. Brighten up those capes. I want to do this faster. So, MiniWarGamers. Kind of just chatted up about the last tournament I was at, which happened to be a 50-point divide and conquer War Machine tournament. So effectively, basically, to people who don't know what that means, what you have to do is you make 2 50-point lists using 2 warcasters, or 1 warcaster and their epic version. Between each 50-point list, you can't have any duplicate characters. So for example, Nisia is a character. Agelantor of the Fist is not. So I could have an Agelantor of the Fist in both of my armies, or 2 of them, because they're field allowance too, but only one of my 50-point lists could have Nisia in it. So it becomes very difficult, because a lot of people, you depend on your solos, your character solos, like Rupert, for example. He's a very big mainstay in a lot of armies. You can't bring him in both lists, so you got to figure out a way to make your other list without using a lot of the characters that you're used to having as support or fighters. Like Iris. Sure, you could do the epic version, but there's a big difference between how Iris functions in both of her versions. And basically, you gotta be aware of that. So, the lists that I ended up bringing were Fiora and Ekrios, because They are my favorite and most comfortable lists. Now, Harbinger was really big on the table. Like, I was really tempted to bring Harbinger, but I find if I ever go up against a Signar player, I tend to die because Harbinger's on a large base, which means most of her protection, which is predominantly bastions, incinerators, and solos, are on small bases, and they don't block line of sight. And while I do give her a Devout and a Vigilant so that she can't be hurt by blast, and it does give shield guard so that the first shot that hits her will actually hit the Devout instead, or I can choose to have it hit the Devout instead. It only blocks one. So let's say you're up against a Sloan list, Sloan being a War Machine, or a Signar caster who, if one Jack hits, another Jack can make an additional shot. It's just like, it's basically a bunch of combination shots. So she is like the queen of sniping, and early game sniping too. I've only played against her a few times, but it's one of those, you learn really quick what to avoid with each caster you go up against. Like when you play Ron for the first time and you find out what Force Hammer does. Or you play Harbinger the first time and you find out what Cataclysm does. Or you play against Krios and you find out what his feat is. Like, there's always that. But anyway, so my two casters, I brought Epic Fiora and Epic Krios. And I did pretty good. I ended up coming in 5th overall, and there were 25 people there, so not bad. Played 4 rounds, so it was 4 games. And oh, the divide and conquer aspect means that out of your 2 50-point lists, you have to use both, each one twice. So sometimes when there's a 2-list tournament, you can just use the same list again and again and again and again. But in this case, you have to use them both, and you get locked out of one, of course, because if you played with the one list and played it again, the next 2 games you can't use it because you have to play each list twice. So, had to play both. Let's see, who did I play against? It was Epic Fiora against Circle. It was Kaya, or regular Kaya, whichever one has Shadow Pack. And the one that teleports around with Varus. Or not Varus. Vasel, whatever the little dog is. The dog that the 2-caster and the dog can teleport to each other, and her feat is it pulls all of the beasts after their activations to within, or they teleport back within 3 inches, but not wholly within 3 inches. That was a close one. I forgot that she has her little teleport ability, so I walked up with Fiora when I was nearing my victory. Because I was like, okay, I've got you, I'm standing behind a Reckoner, and I've got some Bastions, I think I'll be safe. He charges Megalith up against one of my Bastions, or 2 of my Bastions, and kills them. Then he runs his little critter past a Bastion, getting a free strike, which put him down to like 2 boxes, but the critter survived, and so he was able to teleport his caster in, right beside Fiora with 4 Fury, and just beat her up. But thankfully I still had Escort up, and I still had a little bit of focus. So she was dice minus 8 or 9 or something like that up against Fiora. And I survived, and it just was really close, because she's got flank War Beast as well. So basically what that means is she gets +2 to hit and an additional die on all of her damage rolls. So yeah, it was quite scary. I was totally, oh, I was gonna win this game. How am I gonna lose? I shouldn't have moved up. Oh, I shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. But unfortunately, the dice failed him at the very last moment there. And then, of course, when you end up beside Fiora and a Reckoner, that was it for her. Especially with Ikai, who had been on fire most of the game. And then, of course, when you enter activation within 2 inches of Fiora, you get lit on fire automatically. And so she was on fire. It would not have gone out, and I got to hit her a whole bunch, but then she died. Second game, quite a bit more scary. It was up against a Scorn list, and unfortunately I can't remember the name of the caster, but effectively what she was doing was giving all models within her control +2 inches to their movement, as well as her feat gave them all additional die to hit, and they couldn't be targeted by free strikes, or they get boosted to hit, one of the two. Either way, they're rolling 3 dice. And that was against my Krios list, and unfortunately for him, my Krios list just wrecked him. Like, I ran at him, and I did my feat turn, and Knight's Exemplar run in, and if you don't know what Krios' feat is, essentially what it does is, every one of your melee attacks, or rather, okay, it actually is, the way it's described is every model within your control, any one of my models within my control, get an additional attack. Any models that they attack in melee that is also within my control are hit automatically. So if we're both within my control, I get an additional attack and I hit you automatically. Which, if you've ever played War Machine, and if you've seen E. Krios's list, which is everyone is a weapon master, which means they get an additional die on damage, it's pretty devastating when everybody runs in and just smack, 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 auto hit, auto hit. Like, a lot of armies depend on really high defense. Like Circle, for example, their big thing is that their Warp Wolves, who are these big wrecking ball characters, have like defense like 14, and then you put Forced Evolution, their defense 16, and their armor 17, and they've got like 30 boxes. So it becomes this big issue that not only do you have to hurt them, you have to like hit them, and then usually the big problem with units is that you either are accurate or you're powerful. Like, it's rare that you get both, or at least if you do, you have to pay for it. It's very expensive. E. Krios kind of circumvents that by letting you bring Knights Exemplar, who are all weapon master, and the more of them die, the more powerful they get. And on top of that, they automatically hit now on his feat turn. And they get additional attack. So the only downside to them before was they only had one attack each, and they're only Mat 7. I say only because it's only one shot at it. You only get one try, and you're not very fast, so it's going to be hard for you to guarantee it. But with Krios, he totally negates the two downsides to these guys. And they come up to Warp Wolves, and their dice minus like 4 with 4 dice on the charge, and then 3 dice on the second attack, and they just smash them, wreck them, run all over the place. For the first time, I ran Daughters of the Flame in Krios's list. I hadn't done it before. Holy cow! Because you got to remember, once again, if you don't know, the Daughters of the Flame, who are these gals, who are going to be repainted. That one. Their special thing is they have acrobatics, which in games terms means they can move through enemy units, enemy models, or friendly models for that matter, and they're immune to free strikes. And on top of that, they each have 2 attacks, and on top of that, they have an ability called Anatomical Precision, which effectively means if they hit a model, a living model, so it doesn't really work very well against most of the Crick stuff, but if they hit a living model and fail to exceed the target's armor with their attack roll, so when you roll to do damage, you don't do enough to hurt them, you automatically do 1 point of damage. So when you go up against guys like Khador Man-O-Wars, who are rather tough, or at least have rather high armor, or some troll units have rather high armor, and they're very difficult to get to go away, but they don't have very many boxes. Or what are they called? For Signar, they're the Knights with Polarity Shield, or not Polarity Shield, Storm Shield or whatever it is, that gives them plus 3 armor. And then it happens to say, let's say it's Constance's feat, where they all get bonus armor for every guy that's dead. Well, here you come in with a bunch of girls who have 3 attacks each, can move through models, and automatically do 1 point of damage on each attack. Bare minimum against living models. And then that's on Krios's feat, and they automatically hit. So they hit, you take 1, you die. Then their second attack, you take 1, you die. And then their third attack, because of the feat, and they take 1, and they die. And it's just devastating. So, they got to be a whole bunch of fun diving them into Bile Thralls. Unfortunately, Bile Thralls aren't alive, so I had to roll for damage, but that being said, I had enough attacks that I was able to guarantee that it died, or as many of them as I could died, because if you've ever played against Cricks, Bile Thralls are nasty. They'll run in there and they will just self-destruct and wipe out your units. It's really gross, actually. The guy I played against, he had the template. You can buy a template for it, and to give you an idea of the size of this, it is 13 inches across, a 13-inch diameter, and then a 6-inch bubble out of that. Yeah, and it's absolutely huge. Like, it's about this big, right there. And when he lays that down, that's each one of the Bile Thralls blows up and does that, and it's a POW 12, and it hits automatically. Which, once again, in games terms, that means that all my Daughters of the Flame are automatically dead if they get touched by that template. Because they're only armor 12, and they are one of those units that depends on really high defense in order to carry them through. So, he was continuously trying to blow himself up on my Daughters of the Flame, and I was trying to kill the Biothralls to prevent him from doing that. Unfortunately, the reason why I only came in 4th, because as you heard me describing my first 2 games, that they went rather well. My 3rd game, I went up against Crix, and he brought Epic Asphyxious, which, to those who don't know, his big thing is when he feats, he can take up to 10 models, 10 Banes, or whatever, yeah, I think it's 10 Banes, that have died so far in the battle, so 10 of his own units that have died, and they can be placed within 3 inches of him. They all activate as solos, so they're not a unit. They can go 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. They're immune to damage, immune to free strikes, and that's that. They just walk up and they kill your guys. So I was playing against him. I didn't realize that the Siren doesn't have to actually do anything to do the seduction ability, that it just activates and he gets control of my model. So he took my Paladin of the Wall, who are one of the most annoying solos in the game, that I've found anyway, sitting there with armor 21 and you had to use magic weapons to hurt the guy, and he goes, yeah, you're gonna move out of the zone now so I can score 3 points. And it's first to 5, mind you. And then he scored 3 points. My Pally runs up, he kills the Siren, but then gets killed by all the witches. So I had no choice but to send in Fiora, because the way the board was set up, there was a big bridge right here. So here's the bridge, and here's the Judicator standing on the bridge. And basically it was wide enough for him to walk along it, but because of the game deployment, the objective was right here. And I couldn't walk, you can't even, yeah, you can see this. And I can't walk through the objective. So here's my Judicator. He really wants to get to the zone that's over here, but he can't walk across the bridge. So Fiora ran up, she killed the entire unit of witches, I think like 2 survived, but then Asphyxious is just like, and feet, and you die. And that was it. So I lost that game. But that guy, to be fair, he did win the tournament, so I don't feel as bad about getting my butt kicked. 5-0. And in my final game, I had to play against Epic Asphyxious once again, because if you play Crix, you bring Denny and you bring Asphyxious. Those are the 2 casters I always see. But unfortunately for him, we were able to play on basically an open field, and it was with my E-Krios list. He advanced up, I dove at him with my units, I did Krios' feat, and I just slaughtered like half of his army. He moved up, tried to feed on Krios, didn't work because I had enough models between me and him that he couldn't kill them all to get into Krios, or at least couldn't kill them all to attack me with enough to make a difference. And so from there, I mean, I just kept chewing up his army and scoring points at the same time while Krios sat on the zone with an entire unit of Bastions as bodyguards. And so he had this little light jack that could burrow itself, canker or something, or not the canker worm, I can't recall what it's called. Basically it's got these big teeth, or big legs in the front, and it could burrow under the ground like the troll burrowers, similar to that anyway. And that's what he was doing, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, and E-Krios survived, and I killed him. I didn't kill his caster though, I didn't make it all the way to Asphyxious, he kept teleporting away. But Krios was standing on the zone, scoring me tons of points, and so I ended up winning by scenario, while my Vengers were running around. Speaking of Vengers, my Cavalry, which is something I hadn't thought of, but it was brought up to me by another Menoth player there, that their impact attacks on his feat turn hit automatically. Because normally with impact attacks, which I've now fully read and I understand how they work, is you can target a unit behind the guys that you're currently facing. But basically you can target a charge target on the other side of units. So here's your, you can see that, right? Awesome. So say here's the Bastion, and here is my Knight, and I want to charge that Bastion. Well, I'm allowed to do it because he's medium, and I do an impact attack against him, and you won't do this against heavy infantry. Like, I wouldn't charge a group of Knight Exemplars and do this because it's only POW 10. But let's say I'm playing against Retribution, and they have a bunch of armor 13 guys. Normally they depend on their really high defense to get past it, but on the feat turn it's just like auto hit, okay, I roll a 4, he's dead. Auto hit, I roll a 4, he's dead. Auto hit, I roll a 4, he's dead. Bam, I hit him, I get my impact attack for another hit, then I stab him with my lance for another hit, and then my feat turn gives me another lance attack, and I kill whatever I charge, in theory. But yeah, that's what I mean when it's like, ooh, just nasty. And it didn't even occur to me. But people tell me, so thank you for the advice. And I do read the comments on the videos that we put up there to try and make sure that we don't make any, or at least that we don't repeat rules mistakes that come up, but also because a lot of people give advice on like what you would have done differently, and I do like reading those because I'm still not very versed in War Machine. Like, there's a lot to it that I can't wrap my head around it. I'm starting to really work on how to form up your units. For example, the best way to receive a charge with a shield-walled unit, and the best thing I've seen is you rank them up like this, where the front guy is facing straight ahead, and then the second guy is facing inward, and this guy is facing inward, so their front arcs are extending like this. Actually, let's use little things like that. So these are their front arcs, crisscrossing, so this is the very edge of their arc, and then the next guy is the same way. So that way, say somebody wants to charge, he can only charge to about here. Actually, a large base is a poor example, but let's say a little guy tries to charge in, he can charge to here. If he tries to go further, he'll get hit by a free strike from this guy, and if he tries to go further than that, he'll get hit by a free strike from this guy. And it works even better if your units have reach. So for example, the House Guard Halberdiers, which is for Retribution, the guys who I've been using, you know, I'm going to grab one, I'll show you. These fellas right here, they have reach, and so it works even better. Because now they've got this big long extended arc coming out 2 inches, which is just about as long as that white part there, sticking straight out. So let's say he wanted to charge on the outside, come past, oh, you get free struck. So they really can only hit the front group, and usually these units, these small units that are going to be shield walling, or these cheap units, are rather large units, so they end up extending this line out rather far. So yeah, oh no, he killed 3 of my front guys. Not a big deal, because I've got 6 more behind him, and when the charge turn comes, he charges, he charges, he charges, he charges, he charges, and you basically just cycle them through. That's my little bit of tactics, or at least what I've been learning as I've been reading these things / experimenting while playing games. Though unfortunately, as I said in my bat reps, I haven't been able to do it because I don't have my models painted, which is what this challenge is all about. Get these armies painted up. So, that's my thoughts on that for you guys. And that was my time at the Black Knight tournament this weekend, or this past weekend. And I actually have another one. If you're watching this, anyone who is local or at least close enough that they'd be wanting to do the trip, there's another tournament at the beginning of next month that'll actually, it's a qualifier for a larger tournament going on in Toronto. Now, unfortunately, to go to the Toronto one, you do need to have a fully painted army. It's 35 points. But the winner, the top first and second place at the Black Knight Games tournament, which is 35 points, will actually win free tickets, like entry tickets, to the tournament that's going on in Toronto. So that is rather cool, and I plan on going to it. Hopefully I can get out there. To both if I win. I mean, geez, that'd be awesome. But yeah, that'd be rather interesting to go to. But I'm really in a debate about what I should do. What caster would be a really good 35-point list? Now I want to bring the E-Krios list again. So it'll be E-Krios with 10 Bastions, 12 Knights Exemplar, which puts it at 26 points. The Fire of Salvation, because it's part of his theme list, which puts it at 29 points, taking into account his 6 warjack points. He does have 6, right? I think he does. Anyway, I'll check it later. And that leaves me 6 more points, which I would then use to bring... well, I'll get a free Knight Exemplar Seneschal, because I'll be in my full tier. I'll have 2 Knights, 4 units of Exemplars, and the Fire of Salvation, so they get plus 2-inch deployment zone, advance move on the Knight's Exemplar, and a free Exemplar Seneschal, either the Knight one or the Errant one, but seeing as the Knight one is a point more, and the only model I have, I'm more likely to use him. So I get a free Exemplar Seneschal, which leaves me still with 6 points left, and I'm not really sure what I want to fill those last 6 points with. I was thinking Gravis, because he's 5 points, and then I'd have 1 point left for, say, like a mechanic to walk around with the Fire of Salvation, just because if the Salvation ever survives an attack, but almost every time I've ever used him, he gets hit by something that just absolutely destroys him. But if he does ever survive an attack, then at least the mechanic can heal him, because the Menoth mechanics are really nice because they actually have boxes. They're a 1-point repair solo who has 5 boxes, which is just hilarious. Saves him from stuff like Sniper or Anatomical and stuff like that. Basically, he doesn't deserve it. He's too cheap for the fact that he actually has boxes, in my opinion. In my opinion. But, yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about that. That's my idea. The other idea, of course, is Harbinger, and unfortunately I don't have any kind of tiers for her because I don't have the avatar yet. But she's definitely a big contender, if nothing else, than for the fact that she has the giant purification aura effect. Like, the purification in War Machine is a spell that removes all upkeeps and animi currently on the board, and it's within your own control. But Harbinger's a 10 focus caster, which means it's within 20 inches. When you play on a 4x4 board, that is most of the board is covered. And it doesn't care about line of sight, it doesn't care about any of that. It just, boop, all your abilities go away. No more upkeeps right now. So, I've noticed and heard that you tend to see casters who have purification go to tournaments, because a lot of armies depend on their upkeeps, slash the ability to get rid of upkeeps is a very key, very useful ability. As anyone who can play this game will tell you, upkeeps make the biggest difference. For example, Krios. One of his abilities is Sacrosanct. And you cast that on, in my case, I cast it on the daughters and then throw them at the enemy. And then if he actually hits one, and they're defense 15, so they're not exactly easy to hit, if he does hit one, then he kills it, and whoever hit it and killed it gets knocked down. And seeing as, because I threw the daughters so far up across the board, because they're speed 7, so they can really get up there, he's knocked down, basically way out of position. So the rest of his force can either, it moves up, but it's stalled out because it wants to keep that last guy there, or it moves up and can't attack. Some of them, anyway. Never mind the fact that the daughter actually killed probably 1 or 2 of them, if it was on the feed turn, if I got lucky and was able to do it all at the same time. So I really like that idea. Now, I've never used Exemplar Gravis. I literally just got him on Saturday, which today is Monday. So I just finished building him, even. Almost finished building him. Where's his little... There it is. And glue on his little arm spike shield. And so I've never used him before, but from what I read on the paper there, and the fact that he gets souls every time an Exemplar dies, and in my list every model is an Exemplar, even he's an Exemplar, so even Epic Krios, he has an ability where all Exemplar units in his army are immune to continuous effects, which is a big haha, especially if you go up against someone like, if you go up a mirror match where you're up against like Harbinger, or not Harbinger, E Fiora, who depends on continuous fire. Your entire army is immune to continuous fire. So you just laugh. Just laugh. But yeah, those are my thoughts. That's what's coming up soon in the region around here for War Machine. at least that I can think of offhand. I know there's more stuff. I mean, Food Machine is coming up. It's an event in New York. I'm not sure. It's New York State. I don't remember what city exactly. Probably Buffalo. But basically what it is it's a giant food drive. You bring in canned goods. Not things like Mr. Noodles, because it's not even food. Like I don't think you can even donate that right now. But like actual canned goods, you bring them in. It's all a huge fundraiser. I think last I heard it was the largest one in the world. Largest canned food drive, or maybe the largest War Machine food drive. That could have been it. But either way, it's a great thing. Google it. Google Food Machine for 2013, or they have a Facebook page. Take a look. I think there's 65 people that can go. I aim to go. I plan on being there, bringing my cans, helping donate, and yeah. So that's coming up. That's something else, but that's not until November. So you got lots of time to look into that one. For all of you who are interested in that. Speaking of events that are coming up, Apocalypticon's coming. It's only a month away. It's 2 months. Whatevs. 1 month. It's in June. It's June now, and it'll be July soon. So, I'm saying 1 month. But anyway, that's coming up. So all of you that are excited, better see a like or a thumbs up, because I'm excited. I'm not sure if I'm going to be playing, but that's no reason not to be excited. Because getting to see everybody bring out all their armies, and you get to see all the really cool stuff that you don't see very often in regular games, like Stompas and Baneblade spams and like all the Titans that are going to be there. I know that if you take a look at the MiniWarGaming forums, there's like dozens of pages of people getting ready for it, pictures of their models, what armies they're going to be bringing, what plans they're going to do. They're verifying all the rules, getting everything straightened out, and basically rather exciting. I'm looking forward to it.